Welcome to another episode of Ask Dubey. This show is a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use the code NATION. Bet365 must be 19 or older. Now, before we get going here, got to do a little Team Canada talk, a little Olympic talk. They kicked off today. Dominant 5-0 win against Czechia. Connor McDavid, ho-hum, 3 assists. We'll talk for a second about Team Canada's power play. Just watching the power play breakout, you got Cale Makar rushing the puck to a drop to Nate McKinnon, to a double drop to Connor McDavid. You got in zone, you got Sidney Crosby, backdoor to McDavid, backdoor to Nathan McKinnon. This is going to be too much fun to watch. It's going to go by in a flash, but things looked good for Canada in the first game. Things looked good for the U.S. as well. They had a dominant performance over Latvia, which was expected, but some fun hockey just getting going, and when the medal rounds come, this is going to be exciting. It is going to go by too quick. One thing I loved leading up to this, I believe it was yesterday, today he addressed it as well. Coaches, pay attention. John Cooper handles a goalie, an interesting goalie situation. Call it a goalie controversy, call it whatever you want. This talk about the Canadian goalies over and over, and whether they're strong enough or whether it's a weak link and all this stuff. And John Cooper absolutely hit it out of the park yesterday with the way he addressed it. He said, look, people understand in the past it's been Brodeur, it's been Waugh. Carey Price was essentially perfect in Sochi to going to get them the gold medal. But these are Hall of Fame goaltenders. These are once in a lifetime goaltenders, and you're not always going to have that. And that doesn't mean that Team Canada's goalies are a weakness. They're just constantly being compared to some of the best goalies of all time who have had some of the best performances of all time. By the way, don't let me forget Roberto Luongo in there in 2010. He was pretty special there too. So he did a great job addressing it, saying, understand why people say it. However, we're very confident in our goalies, and all three of them, they're all going to get a chance. We feel good about it. They should feel good about it with their group. And that is a lesson in coaching 101 on how to address a situation and not add fuel to the fire, and also have a little genuine meaning behind the words. You believed what he said, because I think he believes that as well. So good on John Cooper. Good job by the Canadian boys, and be fun to keep watching them. Let's get into the questions. All right, on to our first question here from GDog42. What is the deal with the first goalie off the ice as the starter? Is there a logic to it, or is it just the coach doesn't have to answer that question before every game? Also, does the coach ever switch it up to throw the other coach off? Great question. It's pretty black and white on this one. First goalie off the ice as a starter is because for a pregame skate, the starting goalie is just out there to get a little rip in, get the repetitions that they need to feel good, get a sweat in. It's usually about 10 to 15 minutes. They get their stretch in, they get off, they go do what they need to do. The goalie who's not playing that night, this is an opportunity for them to get extra work in, do specific goalie drills. You work with the players who aren't playing that night, who are a healthy scratch. They also stay on the ice longer. They get bag skated a little bit in drills, and you participate in those drills. So you're getting extra work with the goalie coach. You're also helping out the players that aren't playing, because you're essentially a glorified healthy scratch at that point anyway, with a chance to get in the game. So you got to stay on. So that's part of the reason why the second goalie stays on and the starter is off the ice first. No, you don't need to switch it up, throw the other coach off. It's not really, as my kids would say, it's not that deep, bro. It's just, here's my starting goalie. Here's our lineup. We're gonna play. I don't think there's any advantage to trying to throw somebody off, but really it just comes down to starting goalie getting what he needs to get, and then getting off of the ice and being rested up for the game that night. Okay, next question into the goalie stuff. Excuse me, the Myth 09. Could you see the Oilers making another goalie trade this year? Realistically, no. It's just not that easy. I think there's a little bit of panic around the goalies, which is not surprising, because that is going to happen all the time in Edmonton until they get some stud starter that's going to play 65 games. I think there's always going to be a little bit of panic around the goalies, and that comes with territory when you have the high-end skill that they have up front. But if you take away the fact that I don't think you should panic up on the goalie situation, it's just not easy to do, because I think Connor Ingram's could come in and showed that he can do his job, probably more than his job as a second goaltender, and not, play more than Calvin Pickard was. And also he's making $800,000 a year. So on a team that's tight to the cap, that's the best you're going to get. So you're not going to go out there and exchange that position for probably no actual improvement. And plus now you're talking about cap space. You're probably not going to go out and move Jarry either. And the only real thing that's going to happen that would come up, which I don't see how it comes up, is like actually getting like a really stud goaltender. I know there's been rumors and talk of on Wallstead from Minnesota here. Obviously would fit cap purposes wise. I don't know why Minnesota would go to move him. And the reason why with Edmonton that doesn't really make sense is who's going to go back. Now you're taking a significant player, because Minnesota is not going to trade Jesper Wallstead for anything small. It's going to be a significant player that plays right now. They'll likely be looking for a center, and really who is Edmonton going to give up in that situation? And I can't see anybody. So that's why I don't think it's going to happen. And hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I think they're done making their moves in the goalie department. Okay, next question is from Brian McGee. We're going to stick on the Oilers goaltending here. Would you bring up Unger and ship out Jarry? No, I would not do that. Here is the reason. Do you really want to go try to win a Stanley Cup with Connor Unger and Connor Ingram as your two goalies? And I would go ahead and guess that the answer is no. And that's nothing to them, but this is also not a fair situation for Unger either, to bring a guy into his NHL career and be like, hey, welcome to the league. We're expected to win the Stanley Cup. Have fun. That's just not it. So no, I don't think they should bring up Unger. And people need to understand this with the Jarry situation is there's been a couple of off games here, and he's going to be just fine. He showed some good things. He showed some not as good things. He needs a little bit of buffer. He needs a little bit of grace here. He just got traded from the only organization he's ever played in into essentially his hometown junior team. A lot of pressure, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things that go on. I know it's been a while. It's still not just, you don't just flip a switch and snap your fingers and have everything be normal the way they were, especially when you're with an organization for so long like he has with Pittsburgh. So give it time. I think this Olympic break will be great for him. When I got traded to Minnesota, I was very good timing. It wasn't an Olympic break, but it was right before the All-Star break. So I kind of had everything turned upside down. I went to Minnesota for a few games with a suitcase, living in a hotel. And then I had a little bit of time over the All-Star break, which I was in Scottsdale, so I didn't plan on going anywhere anyway, because why would you? So I actually went back there. I was able to pack up my stuff, get organized, get the family organized, figure out where we were going to live in Minnesota. All of these things I was kind of able to organize and come back and really feel settled. And I know it's been a little bit longer for Tristan Jarry, but this could be a good opportunity for him to just get all that other stuff out of the way, get settled in Edmonton. He's now had a little taste of what's going on, what it feels like to be the goaltender there, what happens when you don't play a good game. He gets a little taste of all of that, and hopefully after the Olympic break, he can settle in here, and I truly think he will. I think there was a short period of time there between Jarry and Connor Ingram when they were both going back and forth that people forget, even though it wasn't that long ago, that really showed the potential that they can have as a partnership. So hopefully after this Olympic break, we can stop talking about the Oilers goaltenders unless we're talking about how good of a tandem they are. All right, next question comes from Post Morty, hashtag Ask Dubey. What's a hockey tradition, superstition you have or had in the past, and why? I have lots. I consider them routines more than superstitions, but those are all kind of boring. Everybody has them. I'm going to go to one with my good buddy Sevy Lyons, who's still there in Edmonton. So this is great. But he was awesome. He's a massage therapist there. He was a good friend of mine. We got along great. We had a lot of fun there. I used to get on the scale. We had to weigh in every day, and I'd get it on the scale. And I obviously wasn't a big guy at the time, especially in my younger days. I was probably 185, 190 pounds around there. And I would always get on the scale, and he was the one you had to weigh in. He'd tell me your weight, and he'd write it down. So I always get on the scale, and I'd flex, and I'd tell him whatever my weight is. I'd say 194 pounds of Twisted Steel sex appeal. And he'd laugh, and he'd write it down, and we'd do it every day over and over. And then he started, so we did that so often that he started calling me Steel. And to the point that it just got so blown out of proportion that he called me Steel about everything. But then it was like just all these stories. We would go to Pittsburgh, and he'd ask me when we would get to Pittsburgh, because it was a steel city, if it felt a different kind of presence when we were in Pittsburgh, if I felt at home being in the steel city. And these jokes just went on and on all the time, and they just got funnier and funnier. And when in warm up, when I wasn't playing, we would put he'd get a water bottle ready, and so after the warm up was over, he'd put the water bottle down, and I put my stick down because I wasn't using it. I put it on the rack, and I do different things with the water bottle because we talk about how hot my stick was because it was steel, and I was playing really good, and my stick was hot, so I had to cool the stick off with the water. And we'd do all these. I don't think anybody would have seen any of this, but we had our own little fun. And I'd just do something silly with the water. I'd throw it up in the air and slap it down. Sometimes I took the whole lid off. If I had a really good warm up, I'd have to take the whole lid off, and I'd dump the entire water bottle across my stick because it was so hot. And we'd laugh about it, and it was just, it got way out of control, but it was a lot of fun that we had together, and certainly remember that. So that's one of them. I'll try to think up some other stories like that for you guys for next week if you keep these questions coming. Okay, guys, that wraps up another episode of Ask Dubey. Thanks for all the questions. Again, keep them coming in with the hashtag Ask Dubey to any of Nation Network's social media platforms, or drop your question in the comment section below this video. Please keep them coming in. It's fun to have options and to think of different things, and I love revisiting all these stories as well. So please keep those questions coming in. Hashtag Ask Dubey. This segment brought to you by our friends at Wilhauk Beef Jerky. Only the finest tasting meat products earn the Wilhauk name. Made from 100% pure Alberta beef, Wilhauk Beef Jerky is aged, seasoned, marinated, and smoked to savory perfection. It is so good. Wilhauk Beef Jerky gladly fills orders of any size. Find their beef jerky, sausage, and other products exclusively out of their Leduc location, or you can order online. Get your jerky on. For more info, go to wilhaukbeefjerky.com.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.